The footage of crashes, mishaps, and accidents within this video is presented strictly for educational and informational purposes to illustrate crucial lessons in RV safety, responsible road practices, and personal preparedness.
Coming at you fast like a freight train ride. Another crazy, stupid RV design. Smoking sparks, no fear, no mild. Buckle up, it's RVs Gone Wild.
Yeah, well, let's face it, I've driven across the country, I've driven across Canada and the United States, and I've seen some crazy tow setups. I don't mean to offend anyone, but probably the worst ones I've seen were in Florida, but we all know how Florida works. It's sort of the California of the East. But there's a lot of crazy rigs out there, and whenever I run across them on the internet, you know, I save them out. So I thought we'd go through my little, my file here of crazy, stupid setups that people have done out there and driven on our roads alongside us, endangering our lives, endangering their own lives. Let's take a look at this first one. So if you came into a gas station and you saw this, what would you say to the people? What would you say to the drivers and family that decided to take this rig out on the road? Personally, I wouldn't say anything. Anyone crazy enough to put this type of, 8,000, 9,000 pound rig maybe onto that little car and take it onto the roads is someone who I don't want to mess with. So chances are I wouldn't say anything to them. I'd do what these people did and just whip out my iPhone, take a picture or some video, and maybe try to catch it driving away to see how badly this thing must handle on the road. And what would you say to somebody like this in the gas station? Make sure to put your comments in below. And then this one is worse than that because they decided to take a fifth wheel and mount a hitch on the rear end and attach it to their Suburban or whatever that is. And rather than weigh down this Suburban, it's actually lifting up the back end. Heck, they could have installed this whole hitch setup upside down and it probably would have been safer. These drive wheels must get almost no contact with the ground. I can't imagine that these folks got very far past a police officer without getting pulled over. No way is this safe. Now we got this wackadoodle who decided to put a fifth wheel hitch on his tailgate. And this is sticking out over the tailgate. So this is putting as much weight on the truck, if not more, than a traditional just bumper hitch, right? And he put a gooseneck on there, or I guess not a fifth wheel, it's like a gooseneck. And he actually mounted this trailer on there. And again, when you look at this final picture, you can see those front wheels are practically in the air. I was hoping this was just done as a goof, and this person isn't actually going to drive this down the road because I don't think those front wheels are going to steer very well, half sticking in the air like they are. Now let's go across the pond over to Europe, where they do things a little differently. I don't know if you've ever seen European trailers, but there's some small cars towing some rather large trailers there. They do it a little differently because they put the wheels, they basically mount the axles right in the center of the trailer, so there's very little tongue weight. But anyone who tows out here in North America knows that if you do that, you're probably going to get trailer sway, which they get a lot of. Look back to one of my crashes videos. You'll see some of those trailer sway accidents are shot over in Europe. But here, we've got folks who decided that it's not a bad idea to tow a caravan, if you will, a caravan, with a Porsche. With a Porsche 911, I guess. I'm not a Porsche owner, but I'm guessing these are 911s that they're using for towing. This blows my mind. Even if you don't have the tongue weight problem because they've mounted the wheels in the middle, that's going to be murder on your transmission. I can't believe that these cars are built to handle this type of load. But like I said, they do things a little differently over in Europe. Now, like I was saying, over there, just like over here, some people will tow some trailers with some pretty small cars. Now, with this setup, sure, it's a fairly small trailer, but that little car is no way going to be able to take this trailer on if you're going down a really steep hill, a mountain pass in the rain, or if it has to do any real performance. I gotta believe this setup is not going to do well. And this one makes me laugh even harder because not only is it a smart car that's towing a trailer. But this is one of those Zap smart cars, so I believe this is converted to full electric. And I gotta believe this thing gets a range towing a trailer like that somewhere in the under 100 miles. I'd love to see some stats on a Zap smart car towing a trailer and seeing how far does it really get. And then once you do need to charge, how the heck do you take something like this into a charger where they're all just nose-in spaces? You're gonna have to find a really specialized charger that's set up so you can parallel park a full trailer and a car just to charge your car. So as much as I love the idea of electric, we're just not there yet, and this shows it. And then there's Priuses. Like I said, in Florida, where I used to live, I saw more Priuses towing than I ever saw before. I did not think anyone should be towing with a Prius, and it seems like everybody tows with Priuses down there. Now, here's a great example where somebody took an old vintage trailer and actually hooked it up to a Prius. So not only is it a trailer on a Prius, but it's an old vintage trailer. So undoubtedly this thing is probably heavier than anything modern that same size. So why would someone do this? I gotta believe you're not really running on hybrid mode too much at this point. And whether it's an RV trailer or a regular trailer, you know, I just question whether this is even legal, let alone safe, let alone not bad for your vehicle, right? I mean, do any of you out there tow with your Priuses? I'd love to hear in the comments below. Then there's this guy who actually put out a YouTube video where he mounted a gooseneck hitch on the roof of his Prius. And not only was he able to drive and tow this trailer, but the placement of it allowed him to spin this thing around and park it in ways that you never could imagine. Let's face it, this would be a heck of a lot easier for all of us having to back in our trailers into tight spaces and maneuver them around tight parking lots if we could just spin the vehicle around 360 degrees underneath the hitch like this guy does. So kudos to him for thinking about this. I've seen some old Volkswagen RV trailers back from like the 70s done like this. So I've seen the idea before, but you know, doing it modern day with a Prius, that's crazy talk. But I think he did it a little more for the YouTube video, so at least he had an excuse. I'll put a link to this YouTube video in the description below. So the opposite of having a small tow vehicle is a little bit of overkill here with this big rig, you know, cab towing this ultra small fifth wheel. This fifth wheel looks like it's the kind that's designed for half-ton trucks with short beds. And here he is plugged in to this monster truck. I'm sure this truck doesn't even notice that it's towing relative to the types of things it can tow during the day. Sometimes there's, you know, remote workers who are, this might just be a setup like that. Nothing wrong with it. It just looks a little funny and it's sort of the opposite of all those little tiny cars we just saw. Now let's talk about turducken. Do you know what turducken is? Turducken is when you take a chicken and you cook it inside a duck, and you cook that duck inside a turkey. So you've got a chicken inside a duck inside a turkey. It's called a turducken. I've actually had this. It tastes awesome. If you love meat, it's 3 times the meat. It's great. However, it's not necessarily the best model for towing. Let's take a look. So here we've got a fifth wheel getting towed in a fifth wheel hitch in the back of a truck trailer that's attached to the pull bumper of a larger truck. So the truck is pulling a trailer, and the trailer has a fifth wheel hitch in it, and it's connected to the trailer. Maybe it's a gooseneck, I can't tell from here. But this is trailer turducken. You might have seen trailer turducken in the tow truck world. Here's an example of a tow truck with a tow truck with a tow truck with a car. This would be another form of turducken. This is tow truck turducken. Again, not the most uncommon sight that you would see is a tow truck with a car on a tow truck. This is tow truck turducken. But RV trailer turducken is a whole nother flavor. Here's a great example where somebody decided to take a U-Haul and put a car trailer on it. And on top of that car trailer is a pickup truck. And that pickup truck has a fifth wheel and has a fifth wheel trailer attached. I gotta believe the transmission on this U-Haul must just be smoking the whole way. If U-Haul saw this, I'm sure they would their pants. This is not safe and not a good idea but I bet it worked. So kudos to him for trying. And finally, here's a classic case of RV turducken, where somebody has a Class A, which can probably handle the load here, but on there they've got a cargo trailer with a half deck on it, and on that half deck they've got a car with a bike rack, as well as a motorcycle in front of it. So, and attached to the red car, not even the trailer, is a whole nother boat trailer with a fishing boat on it and a canoe. So I hope he's in one of the states that allows for double towing, because a whole lot of states wouldn't allow this. And again, wouldn't make it past the first highway patrol officer you find coming into the state. So I would stay out of British Columbia if you want to do anything like this, and stay out of California if you want to do something like this. I don't know. Tell me, am I wrong? Can you do this in your state? Comment below if they allow double trailering. Would this person actually get a ticket in your state or province? Let me know. So yeah, there's some crazy setups. These are just some of the images and videos that I just save on my computer when I see them. Gosh, if I saved every crazy tow setup I had, that would be a whole channel by itself. So avoid every example you saw here. Do it by the book. Read the book for your truck. Stick to the math. Stick to the legal standards. Don't do stupid like this. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. And remember, no matter what your tow setup is, make sure you get out there and get busy living.